Hi friends, welcome to Bookish Bliss, our virtual book club. Every week we will dig into a section of chapters in our favorite books. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of Bookish Bliss. We have a lot to discuss today.
Yes, this week we are covering chapters 31 through 41 of A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. There will be no spoilers beyond the covered chapters. You don't have to read the whole book to listen. You just have to be caught up on the chapters we're covering. Amanda, what are you drinking tonight?
I have my last high noon, it's lime, and I'm real excited to crack this baby open after the Monday I've had.
Oh, it is the Mondayest of Mondays.
Yes. What about you? What are you drinking?
I am actually drinking today, back at it again after the third or fourth week or whatever it's been, but I am drinking a red wine tonight. It's a
Nice.
Merlot, and
Nice.
I'm very excited about it. So now that I'm
Ooh.
drinking again, you know we pour on camera.
That's right. I'm going to crack my high noon open.
Cheers to you to episode 28.
Cheers to us.
Woo!
Now let's get started with the good stuff and break down ACOSF Part IV. I am going to start again with the characters, and we have Cassian up first here.
Yes.
Cassian is in rough shape after he spars with Rhys. He spills the bean to Nesta about the baby's wings and the threat to Feyre's life, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah, that is very ballsy of him to tell Nesta this big secret that's supposed to be kept from Feyre. So he's really starting to trust her, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
I know. I don't know if he should have shared that information just because it is her sister.
Yeah.
And who knows when they could reconcile and that just comes out, you know? That would be not good for him.
Yeah, that would not be good for anyone for her to spill the beans. But he could have told her somewhat of the truth, just like what Feyre was told. But no, he full on told her the truth.
Yeah, without hesitation.
Yeah, none.
Wild. Nesta, though, on the other hand, she's just ready for Cassian to fuck the shit out of her as soon as his bruises heal from sparring with Rhys.
Yes.
She does agree, though, to scry again, knowing Elaine is protected and safe. She turns cold as ice, though, and Cassian's hot, steamy kiss pulls her back into reality, which I loved.
Oh, yeah, I was texting you. I literally was crying during this moment because it was just so beautiful.
I think you cried multiple times during this section.
I did, yes. I did.
She finds where the mask is, Nesta, and we'll talk more about that later in the world building because I go over the whole area that they're in. But the mask scares the shit out of Nesta, mostly because the daunting thoughts that constantly roamed in her head vanished.
Yeah.
And it felt so good to be so removed.
Yeah. Do you know what that reminded me of? Is, you know, on the Vampire Diaries when they turn off their emotions?
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. So, like, when she has the mask on, she can't feel this regret and shame of failing and everything else that she's holding in. And she's literally, it just turns off her emotions.
Yeah, and it gives her this sense of power. Like, she's so powerful, and everyone is under her command when she puts this mask on. There's no time for no negative thoughts.
No.
You got to be powerful and make good decisions. Clear that shit right out of your head, and it literally did that for her.
Yeah. Yep.
Nesta finally gets all of Cassian, and it was rough and spicy and leaves Nesta filled and dripping. Okay? Wanting some cuddles after, but she's the one who said it's just sex.
She did.
Even though she gets it again at the end of this chapter.
Hell yes.
Just when you think it couldn't get any spicier, it fucking does.
Hold on to the headboard, Nesta. Whew.
That was wild.
I know.
And she's just like giving him a show, and I was just like, oh my God, what is going on?
Go, girl!
I'm like taking notes. No.
We told everyone last week we love our smut and we love the spice.
Oh, it was so good.
It was
I could not have asked for anything better.
No,
literally.
No, could not have asked for anything more besides adding Asriel in, and then it would have been top tier. But it was
now I'm thinking
really
there could have been more. We really need this deleted chapter.
Mhm.
Nesta upgrades to swordplay, and all the priestesses, even two new ones, were watching. They started with wooden practice swords, but the moment felt pivotal.
Mhm.
Like a novice upgrading to a blade, maybe. Wink,
Ooh,
wink.
shoot.
Gwen and Emery also joined in too. So they're upgrading. They're getting into their shit now, using
Yeah.
practice swords,
They're
no more hand to
very
hand.
yeah, they're very into their training, they're taking it
Yeah,
very seriously. Yes, they have some moments where they're still giggling and teasing Nesta about
right.
Cassian, but they're very focused on their training, and they're on
Yeah.
their way to becoming Valkyries.
They really are. Cassian takes Nesta to a blacksmith too to see and appreciate how weapons are made, which I thought was so interesting. And
I
also, she enjoyed it so much. I was shocked.
Yeah, it's like almost something how Feyre has her art and he wants her to see the weapons that she's going to be using be made, but also by her getting to hammer out the blade and the sword, it gives her hands something to do and for her mind to
Yeah.
focus on. And so, yeah, I think that that was definitely beneficial for her training.
Definitely. Nesta gives it a try herself, and even the blacksmith is smiling at her.
Mhm.
Something Cassian has never even seen on this guy's face. So she's making a positive impact on herself, on Cassian, on other people now. They're impressed with her and excited for her, and it's just so heartwarming to see.
Yeah, the only people she cannot show her true self to is her family and the rest of the inner
Yeah,
circle.
it's true. But I do feel like it was a pivotal moment for her and Reese when he did see this nightmare of hers, sees her in a different light, but also understands her more and her terror.
Yes.
So I feel like
Yeah,
going forward, it might be a little bit better between them.
we
But
we definitely see that at the end of this chapter too,
yeah,
when they're talking about keeping the spell to unlock the door to the mask away from her. He
yes,
totally is understanding. And even when
yes,
he even asks her if she wants to learn the spell from Helion, he says it's your choice. So I definitely
yeah.
feel like he's a little bit more understanding with Nesta now that he realizes the depth of her trauma.
Yeah, and I think Nessa will be more gentle with Feyre as well because she does know the secret that Feyre literally could die and her baby could die. So
Yeah.
I don't think she's gonna be holding a grudge if for some reason Feyre doesn't get out of this and actually doesn't survive. So
Yeah.
I see men's coming along. What's the
Yeah,
word?
but
Amends.
there was one weird part at the end of these chapters, I think, where she was like, Elaine, oh, when they're doing the mind stilling, and we can get into it then.
Yeah.
But when it just brought up, it just made me think of it when we said amends, when she's like, Elaine picked Feyre, Amryn picked Feyre, everyone always picks Feyre, and
Mhm.
so I don't know. There's just still so much there that needs to be picked through.
Yeah, for sure. It's not gonna be solved in one set of chapters, but
That is very
we're
true.
on our way
Yes.
there. Gwen and Emery know that Nesta and Cassian had dirty, rough sex. Although Nesta never really confirms it to them, they can see it all over her face and Cassian's face because they're staring at each other like googly eyed little love dogs.
Yeah. There's heat in their eyes.
Yes. Gwen shares something new that she learned of the Valkyries, a technique they use to make them unshakable opponents, mind stilling. Nessa was very intrigued. She would do anything to quiet her dark, wild thoughts, but it would be their little secret. She ain't
Mhm.
gonna tell Cassian about this, even though he told her about Feyre.
Yep. Nope.
Gwen led her and Nesta through the mind stilling practice, and although it was a challenge for Nesta to stay focused on her breathing, she could see it working.
Mhm.
And this is where I feel like her change will really happen.
Yeah.
Even with the working out, after she did this, she was so motivated.
Yeah.
It just lit a fire under her ass, literally, and inside of her, I guess.
Literally. There's so many good positive changes happening to her. It's hard to
Yeah.
say what is the biggest factor. I think it's
Yeah.
literally all these tiny pieces and changes that she's making coming
Yeah.
together as one just to be so positive for her and her healing journey.
I agree, yeah. Within this section, there are a total of 11 females training with Cassian every morning.
Mhm.
They even show up in the rain and are hungry to learn more. Cassian thinks a second tutor is needed since their group has grown so much. So Asriel joins them and trains the newcomers, while Cassian trains his girl Nesta and her two girls, Gwen and Emery.
Yeah, it's almost like they're his little special project, and
Yeah.
Azriel takes on the rest of the priestesses.
He's like, well, I originally planned on Nesta, and these are her two besties, so I'll take these three, and then you take the rest.
Yeah, because those three are not going to train without each other, so.
No. Asriel, we also learn, was the one who found Gwen the day of Hybern's attack in Sangrava. So I feel like she was a little worried at first. She maybe like having a flashback of seeing him outside of the library. So, but I think, it's fine. Everything's fine. She's
Yeah.
still training with Cassian and Nesta, and he's doing his thing with the new priestesses, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, she's Gwen. She's definitely on her healing journey as well. She's badass.
Yeah.
Wearing freaking Illyrian leathers at the end of these chapters.
That's so true. Some shit goes down with Asriel in this section. He's not only the new trainer, but I will go into that as well in the world building section. So I'll hold off on Az for a minute.
Okay.
Lucian shows up to the House of Wind to report back to Feyre any progress he sees in Nesta. And he definitely fucking sees the progress. So much that he says, "Mother, spare you all." He is scared shit of her and her abilities.
Yeah.
Her potential abilities, because she hasn't even really shown what she's all about yet. She hasn't even shown herself, or Cassian for that matter. So the fact that he's already saying this, I'm like, she must be one powerful bitch. Helion comes back into our story.
Oh, yay.
Rhys brings him. Yes, I know. I love Helion. Rhys brings him into the Hewn City to help with the Autumn Court soldiers who are under this trance. They do inform him that Feyre is pregnant, and he's happy for them, congratulates them. So we'll get into more of that into the world building section. I'm just going to pick it right up.
Yes. Let's move on over to the world building now.
Yes. The Bog of Orid in the middle is where Nesta, Cassian, and Az end up to look for the mask. And she does find it. This place was once a sacred place where warriors were laid to rest. But it changed to a place of darkness filled with such evil things that no one fucking goes there.
No.
Only the worst fairies are drawn to it.
Yep.
And to make matters worse, there's no map of the middle because it's forbidden to map the middle beyond vague landmarks by an ancient council of High Lords. There's wild magic that still lives here and thrives, but the High Lords of Prythian, they respect it as its own entity and they didn't want to provoke it by revealing any mysteries. So there's no maps. They're kind of going in blind here.
Yes, they're just like, Nesta, sense what you can, but otherwise, we're screwed.
Yeah. We'll follow you, but we're on high alert.
Yes.
The water there is blacker than in the cauldron. It was a very, very evil place. Cassian even describes it as the worst place he's ever been to in 5 centuries.
Wow.
Its very essence spoke of death and decay.
Yeah.
I could just feel the shivers being in this place.
Yeah.
Your skin itching to like run out of there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like a fun place to be.
It's you never go, or if you do have to go, you get in and you get out and you don't ask any questions.
Exactly. And the trauma that must be rising in Nesta's fucking whole body about this water. She's about to have all around her. It's so dark and black. Scary.
Yes.
So Cass and Az tell Nesta of ancient creatures in the Orid. She waits till they're already there to ask what the fuck could be there.
I would also. I love that she's like, yeah, I would have talked myself out of it if I hadn't known beforehand.
I love how Cassian's like, now you want to know what the fuck is in this when we're here?
Oh, mister, I'm acting so nonchalant, like I'm not about to walk into a place that can kill me, Cassian.
Yeah. Literally. So we hear about the Kelpie, one of the first true monsters of the fairies. They were shapeshifters who dwelled in lakes and rivers and lured people into their arms, drowned them, and feasted on them. They don't reproduce. They were made by a cruel god, and they just rape and torment people, and they sound fucking awful.
They are awful.
Witches, and not the humankind, also dwelled in these Orids. The kind that used to be something else, and their thirst for magic and power turned them into wretched creatures banished there by various High Lords. They drank young blood to fill the coldness the magic left in them, and they seem like not the funnest people to run into.
Yeah, I've never heard of witches that aren't the humankind, so that was a new type of creature for me. I don't even remember that from the first time.
I know, it could literally be anything that is hungry for power and uses dark magic basically to get it.
Yucky.
Scary. There was also light singers who will lure you, appearing as friendly faces when you're lost, but they're not fair at all. The horror of it is the last thing that you would see before they drown you in the bog. And they kill you for sport, not for food.
Yay.
Also, can't hunt these creatures without provocation because you may find yourself trapped there forever.
Lovely.
So you can't even defend unless you're attacked.
The middle is just the wildest place.
Yeah.
There's just so much craziness going on there.
It's literally the wild, wild west of magic.
Yes.
The Autumn Court soldiers are in the Orid and shoot Azrael with an ash arrow. Cassian
Mhm.
is thinking at this moment in time, did Eris royally fuck them over? Or are these the missing soldiers? Did Baron learn of their plan? He's freaking out.
Yeah,
And
freaking out.
yeah, he literally dumps Nesta in a tree to go after Azrael and help him. But
Mhm.
once he gets there, he realizes something is wrong with these soldiers. They have no awareness. Az is basically torturing them. They kill basically the whole group of them except for two, I think. And
2, yeah.
Az takes them back to the Hewn City so that he can figure out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
So Az is torturing them, but he soon realizes they're under some kind of spell. So they decide they'll call in Helion and try and break it.
Mhm.
Nesta, of course, is impatient and fucking gets out of the tree
Of course.
while Cassian goes to save Azrael, even though he specifically told her to stay put, and a fucking Kelpie appears. Scary.
Well, her and her sister have something in common. You tell them to do one thing and they do the opposite.
Yep, and they say they're gonna stay, and then they do something else.
Exactly.
So this Kelpie, it's got black eyes, white skin, rotted teeth, and it fucking drags her into the water. I was freaking out reading this. I was
Yeah.
hyperventilating. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh
Oh
my
my
God.
god. Oh my
She's in
god.
the
Oh my
water.
god.
She can't
Yeah.
even take a bath, and she's in this black water again. What the fuck's gonna happen?
I know.
Wild. But she's fighting against it, of course. She's calling for her power to help her, but like calls to like, and the fucking mask appears, finds
Thank
her.
God.
Thank God. She
Thank
puts
the
it on her
cauldron.
face. Yes, thank the cauldron. She puts it on her face. Nesta is able to pull it off of her face since like calls to like. So it's not stuck on her. She can take it off, put it on as she pleases. Others
Mhm.
can't take it off once they have it on. So they already know that Bryalan has the same gift and can put it on and off as well.
Yes.
Reese shows Amryn the interaction between the Kelpie and Nesta, and she recognizes the language that it spoke as an ancient Fae language that hasn't been spoken in 15,000 years.
It's a long time.
How does Amryn even remember
Because
this language?
Amryn is an ancient lady.
15,000 years?
Yeah,
Wild.
I know.
It asks Nesta if she was its sacrifice, and then it said that she would be its bride before she was supper.
Yuck.
And then it sticks its nasty fucking rotted mouth tongue in her mouth while she's under the fucking water.
I
like,
know. Literally fucks up her mouth.
disgusting.
Yucky.
And she had bruises and sores and shit all over her mouth after.
Yeah. And she's like, Cassian, am I still beautiful?
And she's like, come here, Cassian.
Yucky.
I can't. Helion is scared shit of this mask, too.
Yes.
And if he's fucking scared, which is weird because none of them are affected like he is.
He is
So,
really affected by this
yeah.
mask.
He assumes that it's because an ancestor of his used the mask and it's warning him of its cost. It's basically imprinted in his blood, is what he assumes. Interesting. And I feel like we learned that for a reason. So,
Yeah. No,
I'm
that
gonna
was
put that in my
definitely
back
really
pocket. Yeah.
interesting that he's like, please cover it. I really cannot
Yeah.
handle this power.
Yeah. Even when he was warding the room, he's like, let's get this over with, nice and quick. I'm going to teach you how to undo it and get me the fuck out of here.
And then I'm out of here. But I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot going on with him too, because he's like, is it okay if I hang out for an hour or two before I have to go back? So
Yeah, that's
Reese
true.
is like, what's going on with you? So
Yeah.
there's definitely something going on with him.
Yeah, for sure. Helion confirms to them it's not a spell that's on these soldiers, but more of a fog or a mist. So they kind of put together Queen Bryalan has the crown and is
Mhm.
using it to influence these soldiers to do something. Probably was there to try and find the mask.
Right.
So, 1 for 1 right now with these ancient things.
Yeah, so now we have to get the harp and we have to steal the crown.
Yes.
No biggie.
No biggie, add it to our to-do list.
Yeah.
And before we end world building, we have to go over our favorite section, fast
Yes.
magic. Fast magic.
I can't, that jingle.
It's catchy though. I even find myself saying it later. I'm like, fast magic.
Fast magic.
All right, here we go. We got to start with the winnowing and the flying because we do that very often throughout the whole section.
Yep.
Maja's magic can see into Feyre's womb and get a general shape of the baby, and that's how they find out that this baby has wings.
Yeah, she's like an ultrasound machine.
Literally. Nesta puts on the mask and the magic flows through her veins. It summoned the creatures of the dead who ripped the Kelpie to shreds and took Nesta to the surface.
Mhm.
Wild scene.
Crazy.
Rhys warded the mask in a locked room, but Nesta could get through it. So they ask Helion for help with that, and he comes, wards the room, and teaches Rhys how to undo it because Nesta does not want to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Nesta shows Rhys and Amryn her memory with the Kelpie.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, I almost forgot to mention. Helion has Pegasus horses.
I know, that is so cool. So
That
cool.
is so cool. But we also learn a little bit about them. He may be the only one left in the whole world that has them because Amarantha killed a bunch of his Pegasuses during her reign.
She's awful. Every time
This
I
fucking bitch.
almost forget about her, she gets brought
Yeah,
up again and how awful she
literally.
is.
I was thinking the same thing. Book 5, and we're still talking about this bitch.
I know. She did a lot of trauma to these
Of
people.
course. Yeah, of course she has to fucking kill animals too, that evil motherfucking
Biatch.
bitch. And that's all I have for world building today. So I'm going to let Megan take over with her new and improved summaries and let's talk about the plot a little bit.
Yes, before we do that, let's do another cheers before we get to
Yes.
this last half of our recording. I'm going to bring us back to chapter 31. Cassian comes back brawling with Rhys with bruises all over him, including a black eye. Nesta is like, what in the world happened to you? Cassian tells Nesta why Rhys is all worked up. Feyre is carrying a baby with wings, and it's basically not good news. Feyre does not have the pelvis needed to birth a baby with wings, so the odds of either mother and baby surviving is slim. Nesta learns that Feyre does not know the full extent of her and the baby's fate. Cassian also wants to know why Nesta hasn't sought him out since their hookup at the dining room table. And she says when he is healed, they can do whatever he wants.
Ooh.
Nesta wants to scry again, but wanted Amryn and Rhys present when she did, which meant naturally the entire inner circle minus Moore was in the room. While she's scrying, she is holding Cassian's hand, and as she begins her search for the mask, the room turns cold. Ice cold. Rhys and Feyre cannot get past her mental shields, and when she opens her eyes, they are filled with silver flames. Cassian needs her to drop the bones and stones onto the map, so he kisses her, and she eventually drops them, showing our gang that the mask is located in the middle at the Bog of Orid. Nesta, Cassie, and Azriel will go search the bog for the mask, and hopefully nothing bad will happen.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
So funny.
Oh, yeah. So obviously, Nesta wants Cassian badly after their
Yes.
interaction in the dining room. But she's like, you are not pretty right now. So until you look pretty again, I want nothing to do with you. But once you look
Yeah,
pretty
more.
again, it's on.
Yeah, she wants more from him, but also she's like, you don't look the same
Yeah.
right now.
She's like, that black eye is not doing it for me.
Yeah, she's like, maybe next week.
Yeah. Not today, sir. Not today.
So funny.
But yeah, obviously, like we talked about this a little bit earlier, it's definitely concerning that Nesta knows this big secret about Feyre. And
Yeah.
obviously, I don't agree with them not telling Feyre. literally everyone is going to know besides Feyre. Even Nesta is clued in, which is wild.
I know. And obviously, the news has to come from Reese, but I can never imagine knowing this about my sister and not saying something to her.
Yeah. No.
I know we're a lot closer than Nesta and Feyre, me and Olivia, but I still could not picture knowing that she could die and not telling her.
Yeah. Me and Kelsey have arguments all the time, but I still love her enough to tell her, "Hey, you're gonna die if she's gonna die."
Literally. Or at least let her be a part in trying to save herself. She's doing nothing right now. She can't do anything. She's fucking pregnant. So let her go and do some research and see what could happen.
Yeah, she has no idea what's about to happen to her and the baby.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, he wants to save her from the stress, and it's healthier for the baby for her to be okay. But I feel like she will be level headed about it enough.
Yeah.
Because she'll know too that it will affect the baby and still be helpful, will be better for her than.
And for someone who's all about choice, it's your
Yeah.
choice. You need to make your informed
Oh.
decisions, and he's keeping this from her. It's just not right.
It also makes me have bad feeling that he doesn't even believe he can get her out of this yet, which is scary
Yeah,
to think about. Like, is she gonna fucking survive? Who knows at this point?
I don't know.
Yeah.
She could
Crazy.
die.
She could die.
This book, it's not like we get her point of views anymore after her 3, so
Oh my god. I hope she does not die.
I know, that would be sad.
That would be crazy.
That'd be so crazy.
And the baby.
Yeah.
We were so happy when we found out that she was pregnant. Well, I did because you already knew, but
Oh, I know. But moving on to how Nessa's like, after she finds that out about Feyre, I feel like she's like, I have to try. I have to do more, especially
yeah.
now knowing this about Feyre. So she wants to scry again. But I love how she's like, Amber and Reese have to be there too. And Cassian's like,
Yeah.
fine. He's like all mad about it. Like she doesn't just want him there.
Yeah, he's like, I know you just need me, but sure, if you need them too, then
Yeah, I
fine.
guess it's fine if they're there.
She also says too is she wants to make a better world for the baby, which is cute.
It is cute. She's like trying to be Auntie Nesta.
Yeah. Aw, Auntie Nesta.
Oh, that's one
So
scary lady to
cute.
have on your side. That's for
For
sure.
real. At least you know she'll always be on your side and never against you.
That's true. So obviously, Nesta gets to the house on the river and she is going to scry again. And
Mm-hmm.
it is a little scary what happens
Yeah.
when she goes that deep to find the mask. And
Yeah.
I think if she wasn't even tethered to Cassian, gosh knows if she would have even have come back. I think by
Yeah.
them holding hands and him squeezing to make sure she returns back to the present. I don't know. That was just really wild how the room just kept getting colder and colder and colder. And she didn't lower her shield, her mind
Yeah.
shield.
Why would she do that knowing she could get stuck in there and
Well,
being so traumatized?
Well, I think Feyre's like she doesn't want whatever the mask or any of those objects finding her and finding the people that she loves, like what happened the
True.
last time with the cauldron.
Yeah.
So she kept up her shield so that those objects couldn't find her either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It was worth the risk for her,
mhm.
for the mask to not figure out who is with her and who she loves, to have to pull herself out.
Yeah. So then Cassian's like, Nesta. And that's when she opens her eyes. And I just pictured it like in that scary horror movie because he said she moved her head so slowly like a puppet. I
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
imagine those eyes and then her just slowly turning towards him. And this is
Yeah.
when I started crying because he's
I
like,
know.
hello, Ness. He just like
I
accepts her
know.
and her pure death form.
Yes, and this is actually where my notable line is for this chapter, so I'll read it quick. Chapter 31, page 343. Cassian's trying to pull Nesta back into reality from scrying for the mask, and he says to her, let go of the stones and bones. Let go of the stones and bones, and then you and I can play. And then he kisses her, and it warms her entire body up. And he says, let go, Ness, and she snaps back into reality.
I know. She always returns to him.
I know. Her whole body physically relaxed when she hears
Yeah.
his voice.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
And that's what happened when she was having that nightmare. That's how Reese could finally get into her head is
Yeah.
because he said her name and it calmed her.
Oh,
No.
I love them.
I know.
They're my new favorite couple of this series. I'm sorry. They're spicier. I like Nesta's little sassiness more. Even Cassian has better comebacks at Nesta than Reese does, so I'm sorry, but they take the cake for me.
I know. I think a lot of people feel that way after
Mm.
they've read it, but I don't know. I don't
I
know.
know, Reese has a special place in your heart.
He does, even though he pisses me off in these books. Like, when it's not Feyre's point of view, I'm like, "What a little shithead."
Yeah, literally.
'Cause you know me, I'll defend Nesta till the end.
I know, it's funny because I feel like you like Reese better, but then you like Nesta better.
Yeah, I know. I'm weird.
We still love you.
Moving on to chapter
Mhm.
32. When the three arrive at the bog after departing the river house and leaving a worried Reese and Feyre behind, the group observe the area. None of them are getting a great feeling about the place with the mist and the heaviness. They talk about the creatures who will most likely dwell in the water. The biggest one talked about was the Kelpie, who are shapeshifters and they lure you to your death. Nesta notes that the
Mhm.
mask might be in the water, so they take to the skies to see if she can sense anything. Nesta does sense something, and when they turn to tell Azriel he is no longer behind them, he has disappeared into the mist.
Wild.
So obviously, this chapter was a lot longer than that short little cute little summary, but a lot of it was describing the creatures that Amanda already went over. So it was
Yeah.
kind of just literally warning us like we're going to encounter one of these
Yeah.
creatures while we're here looking for
Something
this mask.
yeah, something crazy is going fucking down.
Yeah, obviously, Feyre and Reese are fretting over them, and Feyre's like, I should be going with you guys, and Reese is like, I should be going with you too.
Yeah.
And Nesta's like, ugh, I just cannot with you guys. Let's get this show on the road. Even Azriel's like, can we go?
Yeah. Nesta is like, "It's just gonna be me and my boys, and
Yeah.
about to go find this mask on our own."
Yeah. I mean, technically, Reese could have gone with them,
Yeah.
but whatever.
True. I guess he could've.
Yeah, there was no reason why he couldn't go.
True. Why didn't he go?
I don't know.
He's like, "Nesta's got it."
Yeah, they're like, these three got it. I don't need to go.
Yeah.
He probably only chimed in that he should have gone too, because Feyre said that she's like, I should be going. And Reese's like, oh shit, I
Yeah.
probably should say I need to go too.
Yeah.
And obviously, Nesta just wants to get out of there as fast as possible.
Yeah. And my notable line happens before they leave. Chapter 32, page 348. Elaine has opted to remain in her room when Nesta was present at the river house. So Nesta's thinking, that's fine. She makes her own choices. Elaine was like a dog, loyal to whatever master kept her fed and in comfort. Ugh.
Ugh.
It's true, though.
It's true, but it's such a harsh observation of Elaine.
Yeah.
Which,
She's clearly still pissed at Elaine.
oh, 1,000% is still pissed at
Yeah.
Elaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very harsh comment to make. And that's why I also think, is there a time and space where she ends up with Tamlin? Because she would be very loyal to how he keeps her fed and safe.
True. That is another freaking point to the Tamlin bond with her.
I know. I don't know if it's real, but it's just like, obviously there's that one sticking point in ACOWAR where Lucian tugs on the bond. So clearly
Yeah,
there's something there. But there's so many other signs
I know.
pointing towards Tamlin that I'm like, that can't be a coincidence.
I know. That would be wild if you were right.
That would be crazy.
Imagine reading it in the next book
I'm like,
that comes out whenever it's gonna come out.
I know. I mean,
You would call me right away and be like,
I
"Oh
was fucking right.
my god!"
Though a lot of people do feel this way, but then, that point just keeps being brought back
I
up
know.
about the part
It
in
was hard
ACOWAR.
to argue that one.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's you ca how do you can't explain that one away.
No. Unless there's some weird tug that they had that's not the bond that we just learned about later.
Yeah.
Who knows? That happened with the crown, the harp, and the
That's
and the
true.
mask.
She'll just explain it
So,
away down the line.
yeah, exactly. You never know. Anything could fucking happen in this series.
That's true. So yeah, so they get after that when they arrive there, they're like, yuck, this place sucks. So let's get in and get out. If we don't find any signs that the mask is here, we'll come back a different day. So they don't want to stay there for
Yeah.
very long. But obviously, when Nesta senses something, they quickly turn around to tell Azriel to halt, and he is no longer beside them. So that is where our chapter 32 ends.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I could not start chapter 33 faster.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god, where's Az? What's going on?"
Where is he? Is he
Yeah.
okay?
I was freaking out.
Megan keeps crying, so is she crying again?
Did you
Oh,
cry during this scene? No.
no.
No. After you did.
Yeah, later.
The next chapter.
No, I didn't
You
cry.
didn't?
No, I
I
didn't.
thought you did after Nesta came out of the
No,
water.
I didn't
And
cry until the swords again. Oh, no,
okay,
wait,
okay, you're
did I cry when Nesta came out of the
I
water?
thought you said you did, but maybe I made that up.
No, just when he says, "Hello, Ness," and then with the
Yeah.
swords. Yeah. Alright, chapter 33. Cassian sees Azrael's blue siphons glowing through the mist, but first he safely deposits Nesta in a tree. When Cassian finally arrives to help Azrael, Cassian finds Azrael battling Autumn Court soldiers, and he has an ash arrow through one of his wings. Cassian immediately starts taking out these soldiers. He is pissed. Nesta, in the meantime, feels antsy and sick of holding on to the tree. So she's also worried for Cassian that he was killed. So she climbs out of the tree to start her search, but her plan to swim across the bog is interrupted when she looks into the water and there's a creature staring back at her.
Wild.
Yeah. So, I mean, I totally get it. One, that's wild that these missing Autumn Court soldiers just show up in the middle and start shooting Azrael out of the sky with an ash arrow, which poor
Yeah.
Azrael, he's always getting fucking shot
I
with ash
know.
arrows.
Well, I think too, the lead up from the chapter before telling us about the creatures and all the scary shit that happens in the Orid. It's so evil. And then the fucking threat is the Autumn Court soldiers. I was like, what?
Yeah. Was not expecting that either when I read this the
Yeah.
first time. And then
Yeah.
also, Azrael has taken an ash arrow to his body in every book that he's been in. In Akamath, he got it by the King of Hybern, Jurian shoots him when they're in
Yeah.
Hybern. Then in Akawar, he gets shot at by Hyberns when they're rescuing Elaine from the camp. And then now in ACOSF is getting shot down by Autumn Court soldiers with ash arrows to the wings. Like this poor guy
Wow.
can't catch a freaking break in any of these books. He's always being shot at.
I just realized he wasn't even in the first book. That's crazy.
Yeah, nope, neither was Cassian or
Wow.
Moore or
And
Amryn.
Lucian was my favorite. What the fuck?
Yeah, just think of where you started your ACOTAR journey to where we are
Yeah,
now. It's like such a different story. The plot you read during the
I
first book
know.
has nothing to do with the rest of the series.
That's crazy.
I know.
It also makes me so nervous for the next book.
Literally
Literally,
same.
it's so unexpected.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, of course, Nesta sitting in a tree, not
I know.
Kissing,
I was
and
thinking the same thing. You're in my brain.
get out of my head, even though you're literally in my head right now.
Mm. You
So,
only hear me in your head.
yeah. So she's like, you know what? I'm tired of holding on to this tree, which I don't know why. I just imagined her like a koala, just wrapped
Yeah.
around this tree. He couldn't have found a safer place for her to fucking sit down.
No shit, like a big enough branch for her to just chill,
Yeah. She's
not
like,
have to hang on for dear life.
and then it's funny in the next chapter, he's like, I was only gone 30 minutes. Well, I wouldn't want to fucking hold on to a tree for 30 minutes. What the
I
hell?
know. 30 minutes is a long time to be in an evil place by yourself in a tree, scared that Cassian and fucking Azrael are dead.
Yeah.
30 minutes? I wouldn't even have lasted 10.
No, absolutely not. So
No.
she climbs down out of this tree and she's like, I'm going to go find them, which obviously we knew. We knew from the second she climbed down from this fucking tree that something bad was going to happen.
I
And
knew it,
sure
yeah.
as shit, the second she's about to step into the water to swim to go find them, which
Yeah.
dumb, she sees something.
Yes, and this is actually my notable line for chapter 33, page 359. Nesta surveyed her reflection again and found a pair of night dark eyes looking back through it. First of all, When I was reading this, I didn't realize at first that it was a different creature. I
Oh.
thought it was Nesta's eyes just looking back at her weird. So when something
Oh.
fucking popped out, I was like, "What the fuck?" Because I didn't even think you could see in the water. It's black. Now all of a sudden she can see a fucking creature. I was so caught off guard. I was like, "What the fuck?" I was so confused. I'm like, "Huh?" I have to go back and read it. And then I realized, okay, something is actually looking back at her. But
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny that I didn't even pick up that it was a creature at that moment in time.
Yeah, that's so wild. Which brings us to chapter 34. A really,
Yes.
really scary creature comes out of the water and it's white like bone with black hair and eyes and super long fingers. Nesta realizes that this creature coming at her is a kelpie. She is so scared that she cannot even flee, even though there is a female voice in her head that is telling her to run over and over again. But she
Mhm.
cannot move and she even has an accident. Like, that's how scared she is. The
Yeah.
Kelpie grabs her and drags her into the water. Literally so scary. Cassie and Azrael, though, are having a successful battle of 2 against 12 and have them all eliminated besides 2 that they will take in for questioning. Cassie notices that there is something off about them and something is very wrong. And are these the missing Autumn Court soldiers? They go to find Nesta, but they find her missing. She is no longer in the tree, and her scent stops at the edge of the water. Cassian is about to have a panic attack.
I could just imagine how freaked out Cassian is in this moment.
Literally freaking out.
But also, you should have
"Nesta!"
known to not fucking leave her in a tree for 30
Yeah,
minutes.
she's not very good at listening to you, Cassian.
No. I get it. He didn't want to bring her into this battle, this bloodshed, because he didn't know what was going to happen
Right.
or if he was going to be distracted trying to save her and something bad happened to him or Az. So I get it. But 30 minutes? That's a long time.
That is a long time. So yeah, I can't even imagine though when this freaking kelpie jumps out of the water, is like
I
crawling
know.
towards her, and I wonder who that female voice is. Is
I
it her
know.
own voice? Is it some sort of intuition? Who is this voice that's like run, and she just cannot focus enough to get up and run?
Yeah, she's literally like shell shocked. She can't move, she can't think, she can't even talk, she can't scream, nothing.
Yeah.
She's just frozen.
She does move back twice,
Yeah.
but not far enough that thing still gets its claws into her and
Yeah.
drags her into the dark water. Insane.
So scary. And this is my notable line for chapter 34, page 361. Pain ripped Nesta from her stupor and she fought, fingers grabbing at the grass. It came free in clumps as if it had no roots at all, as if the bog would do nothing to help her. The Kelpie towed her along as he slithered back into the frigid water and dragged her under the surface. Anxiety.
So crazy. Finally, she snaps back into it and is like, shit, I'm about to die. Like, I need to fight.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah. Which brings us to chapter 35. Down in the water, Nesta is being dragged by the Kelpie further and further until they reach the bottom. Nesta tries to reach for a weapon to attack the Kelpie, but it pushes her to the bottom, kisses her, sticks its
Ugh.
tongue into her mouth, and gives her air. The Kelpie then disarms her while still kissing her and cutting up her mouth with its teeth. As the Kelpie is dragging her, she calls for her power, something, anything to help her. When she sees a shiny object in the water and reaches for it, she has found the mask. Before the Kelpie could stop her, she places the mask onto her face. The dead soldiers in the water are now in her command and they help her survive the attack from the Kelpie.
Yes, wild. So my notable line is right at the beginning of this chapter, page 364. Nesta was thinking, this is how she will die. And there was nothing to do about it. No one to save her. She'd taken her last breath and hadn't even made it a good one. So focused on her terror that she forgot she had weapons and she had magic. Blind in the darkness, Nesta grabbed the dagger at her side. She fought back against the cauldron and she'd do so now. As soon as I read that line, I was like, fuck yeah!
That was literally such a wild scene. She's like, I am not going down without swinging. But that gross thing disarms her,
I
literally
know.
puts his mouth all over her. So disgusting.
Ugh.
And
She does
I just,
stab it though, right? She does get it
yeah,
first.
but not well.
Not well. What is it, like, in his leg or something, right?
She's like, "I hope I don't get myself." She literally just can't see where she's stabbing, so she's literally blind trying to
Yeah.
go after this Kelpie, but yeah, it, like, pushes her all the way to the bottom and is giving her air because, like we learn
Ugh.
later, he wants to make her his bride before she dies,
Yeah, and
so
even Nesta in the moment is like, it's almost like he wants to keep me alive for some reason. She doesn't
yeah.
obviously know yet what he says because she doesn't understand the language until she shows the memory to Amryn and Reese, but I feel like she even was like, "This is weird. Why is he
Yeah,
trying
she's
to
like,
keep me
"Why is
alive?"
he
Yeah.
blowing air into my mouth?" I mean, obviously, it kept her alive longer than she would have been if he
Yeah.
hadn't have done that, and it
Yeah.
gave her time to call for power and to call for the mask, and then she sees it as he's dragging her along to his lair, I guess,
Ugh.
and she sees the shining object, and she grabs a hold of it before the Kelpie can stops her, and she puts the mask on her face. When she did that, I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
It's the mask, and she puts it on her face, and all those dead soldiers and dead bodies in the water just rise to the occasion,
Yeah.
and they're in her command. She is a true queen at that point.
Yup, and they rip that motherfucking Kelpie to shreds.
Yes, and it's so wild. Obviously, we'll go into what happens next in the next chapter,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was definitely a wild scene. I just couldn't believe that she put it on. Obviously, she had to put it on to survive, but that's crazy.
Yes, and after I read this chapter, I remember texting you and being like, "What the fuck? That shit was crazy." And you sent me that
Yeah.
TikTok that
Mhm.
was the perfect description or picture, motion, whatever. I don't even know what it's called. Because it's
Of
like
the scene.
drawings, but they move, which is so cool.
Yeah, I love
But it
those.
was
There's been
perfect.
so many of different scenes from the series,
Yeah.
and that definitely was one of the ones that I thought that they did such a great job with.
I think too, my brain was picturing it exactly as that was, except the creature was it put it in perspective seeing it
So
because
scary.
you just think of wild things when it's in your own brain, but seeing it in the picture, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is exactly how they describe it. Yep."
Yep, yep, that's right. It's terrifying.
And it's terrifying, but yeah, crazy scene.
Yes. Chapter 36. Meanwhile, Cassian is still losing his mind trying to find Nesta. He is about to go fully underwater when Azrael points out a glowing light coming from underneath the water. Azrael prevents Cassian from going any closer when an army of the dead emerges from the water, followed by Nesta, who is wearing the mask and holding the head of the Kelpie, which reminded Cassian of when Nesta held the King of Hybern's head in her hands. Nesta finally takes the mask off, and the soldiers collapse back into the water, and so does Nesta. But Cassian grabs a hold of her and brings her to shore where she passes back out. It's fun to see the action and the bigger plot of this series starting to come into play here.
Yes, definitely. My notable line again is right at the beginning of this chapter, so I'll just get it out of the way for chapter 36, page 369. Her blood was a cold song, the mask a slithering echo to it, whispering of all she might do. Home, it seemed to sigh. Home. Nesta did not refuse it, only embraced it, letting its magic, colder than her own, flow into her veins. I
Yeah.
think it's interesting that it calls Nesta home. I know it's speaking to her like calls to like from the cauldron, but to think this ancient fucking scary mask
Mm.
knows who Nesta is because of what has been done to her, basically. A little creepy.
Yeah, this was just a wild scene.
Yeah.
And also when she comes out of the water and she's holding the head, Azrael and Cassian literally bow. They
Yeah.
bow to Nesta with the mask on because they don't know what would happen if they tried to stop her or
Right.
go save her from the mask. So they said they do what Illyrians do. And even though Azrael doesn't like to call himself Illyrian, they bowed. Literally, their head was almost in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, they were
So,
literally, like, staring at the surface of the
yeah.
water. They're like, "Oh, shit. I ain't getting
Yeah,
involved."
yeah, he's like, "Nesta?"
But also, I feel like they were in awe of her as well. They were like, "Holy shit. This bitch is fucking crazy."
And for the mask to come off so easy,
Yeah.
she's like, "Yeah, I just willed it and it came off
Yeah.
like crazy."
She did pass
She's
out, though, from all this energy, I feel like, or this
well, yeah, I
magical.
mean, she barely had if it wasn't for the mask, she would have drowned.
Yeah.
So, Her body's just exhausted from being under the water for so long.
I know, and I feel like too is when she put the mask on, she could breathe underwater already, right?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
So the mask literally saved her
Yeah,
life,
because she
which is
was under
wild.
there for a while after even the mask, because she watched all the dead skeletons with these helmets on, craziness, kill the Kelpie.
Yep.
Wild.
I know, it took a long time for her to resurface, and the soldiers emerged from the water before she did.
Yeah, they were, like,
That was
almost figuring out a path for her to go on.
yeah.
They're like,
That
"Come
was
this way,
that's
my queen."
it's such a crazy, crazy scene
Yeah.
with
Scary.
these yeah. It's
I
a very
You
scary
look back
scene.
at, like, all the scenes of Feyre with all these creatures, and it's barely even half as scary as these ones and what Nesta
Yeah,
has to go through.
yeah, I know.
Crazy. It's crazy that I can keep getting scarier. It scares the shit out of me for what's to come.
For sure. Chapter 37 brings us a lot of info. Cassian and Azrael have two remaining Autumn Court soldiers, and they bring them to the Huan City to a room where care won't even enter. There are beasts that live on the floor below. So scary.
Mhm.
They are trying to get answers about why the soldiers were in the bog, but they are not responding to any questions. Amryn says that it appears that they are under an enchantment and all they want to do is harm, but without a reason why. They come to the conclusion that this must be the missing Autumn Court soldiers. They will invite the High Lord of Day to come see if he can break the enchantment on them so they can question them better. When they return to the palace above the Court of Nightmares, they find Nesta awake and in the room with the mask. She should not have been able to get past the enchantment lock Reese had put on the door. Amryn is shocked and calls her lucky that she was able to take the mask off, but like calls to like. The mask recognized her power, and that is why she was able to take it off. They believe it's best if Nesta wards the room, but she doesn't know how. She agrees to have Helion teach her how to do it. Nesta shows Reese the Kelpie because Nesta didn't know the language it was speaking. Amryn says the dialect had not been used in 15,000 years and the Kelpie she killed must have been ancient. But basically, that awful creature wanted to take Nesta as his bride and make her his dinner.
Mhm.
Nesta spent the night in the palace and had a bath in the sunken tub that sounds so great. I wish I had one of my own. Cassian brings her food and she invites him to join her in the bath, but since he won't go to her, she goes to him and they have a grand old time together. But the mood is dampened afterwards when she says that this is just for fun and nothing else. Ugh, Nesta, stop it right now.
I can't with her. Like, just let it be. Why do you have to be like, "It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. Don't forget."
Yeah, I know.
I'll punch
She
her.
refuses to give up this control that
Mhm.
feels that she needs to have when it comes to this relationship because I think she's so terrified of what will come from this relationship if she fully embraces it.
Yeah. She's refusing to believe that it's even real feelings at this point. Like, she
Yeah.
really is trying to convince herself that she does not love Cassian.
Yeah, that it's just for fun, that it's
Yeah.
just this like insane attraction that they have for each other, but literally she cares the absolute most about Cassian.
Yeah, of course. I mean, she tried to fucking save him from the King of Hybern. We're already way past that. He knows you care about him. Just give
Yeah.
in, girl. Just give in.
Yeah. So basically, Azriel is now torturing these two Autumn Court soldiers in this room that is so scary with these beasts underneath
I
that
know.
have like awoken now that their blood is like seeping through the floors. And Azriel is obviously we knew he was the one that tortures for
Mhm.
information. We saw that with the adder in ACOSF, but
Yeah.
I think really to see him as this like cold unfeeling, unflinching machine, basically.
Yeah.
It was a little scary to see him like
Yeah, it
that.
was almost like you mentioned earlier with the humanity switch in Vampire Diaries. Like, he just turns it off and beats the shit out of these people and gets the information he needs and doesn't bat an eye.
Yeah, and we even see him later in this chapter be like cold again when Feyre and Reese order him to stay far away from Briallyn in case he gets too close and she uses the crown on him. And he was not happy
No.
about those
Yeah.
orders. Feyre also does not like the torturing that they did
No.
because they are not aware of what is happening to them. So Reese kind of has to like apologize for it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Feyre knows what Azriel does in this room, and sometimes it is necessary. But once they found out that these two actually know nothing and they are kind of under this enchantment, that they probably should hold off on further torturing them until they have more information.
Yeah. And this is when they call in the High Lord of the Day Court, our boy Helion.
He's gonna come hang out and visit.
Yes.
Before Helion comes, Nesta needs to first.
Yes. That was punny, Megan.
Such a neat
Yes, and
flapper.
here's my notable line for chapter 37. Of course, it has to do with Nesta and Cassian.
Obviously.
It's on page 386. Nesta says to Cassian, "Do what you want." And he says, "That doesn't sound very exciting. Do what you want." He mimics her. He says, "The way you sometimes look at me makes me think such filthy things, Nesta." And she says, "Do them. Do all of them." And Cassian says,
Oh, shoot.
"We don't have time in one night for all the things I want to do to you, with you, every place I want to touch and fill you." And she says, "Then do your best."
We've been waiting 37 chapters for this moment, and it was not a
No,
letdown. It was
it was
perfect.
perfect. The spice was spicing.
The spice was doing something. I'm like, I'm glad me and Amanda aren't reading this
I
together
know.
today.
I was literally like sweating. I was like, holy shit.
Woo!
I feel like so dramatically different than Favorite and Reese. Favorite and Reese are like the romance. This is like smut.
Yeah,
Rough.
she definitely upped it from like new adult to like full on adult.
Yes, 100%. I'm shocked we get 2 scenes because this is not even the best one. The best is yet to come. And it was still so fucking good and spicy. And I was thankful for it.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't even talk about it. It just makes me too
I know.
overwhelmed. So, well, we're gonna have to move on to chapter
Before we
38.
become tomatoes and get too red.
Look at how pink my cheeks are. And I put on foundation before we started. All right, chapter 38. The girls know exactly what Nesta and Cassian were up to yesterday, but Nesta doesn't confirm or deny, which leads them to believe that they know that they are exactly right. Gwen tells the group about the Valkyries and their technique of mind stilling, which is basically meditation. She will provide them with copies so that they can practice. Nesta then complains to Cassian that they haven't started training with weapons yet when he calls them out for gossiping instead of training. Cassian then says if Nesta's ready, then she can show him and makes her go through different motions and practices with a sword. She practices with a wooden sword, but she really enjoyed it and made her feel like she would never be weak
Oh,
again.
I love that Gwen and Emery know right away. They're like, "Ooh, somebody got laid."
I know. They're like, we can see the lustful looks that you're giving each other. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Obviously, Cassie can totally overhear
Yeah.
them. And he's like, you two need to stop gossiping. What the heck?
I know. But this is also the chapter where they upgrade. They finally get to use weapons, even though it's fake swords, practice swords, wooden, whatever you want to call them. They're
Yep.
still moving
But they're
around.
still
Yeah.
heavy.
And they're
So,
good with them too. This is actually my notable line for chapter 38, page 402.
mhm.
Nesta is one with the sword, and she can see everyone who hurt her: the King of Hybern, the Cauldron, the Ravens, the Kelpie, and Thomas. And she's thinking, it felt so, so good. And never again would she be weak. Never again would she be at someone's mercy. Never again would she fail. Never again, never again, never
Oh,
again.
full body
She
chills.
literally says that like 10
Yes.
times in
I
that
was
paragraph.
crying.
But she's never going to be weak again. She totally feels herself. She is powerful. She knows it. She's gaining
Mhm.
confidence. She's gaining skill. And this is where I think her turning point happens in
Yeah,
this
she's
section.
literally healing, finally.
Yes, and she's thinking of these bad things and they're not traumatizing her. Instead, she's like, "That will never be me
Mhm.
again. You've done it to me once, but you will never do it
Yep,
to me
and
again."
after she finishes going through that, then Emery and Gwen pick up their wooden swords, are like, "Alright, let's go, let's get down to business."
I know, and I love that. I love that they're so down, but also going through it together
Yeah.
motivates all of them so much more than if it was just an individual thing.
Yeah, they totally have each other's backs and, you know, if one's gonna do it, they're all gonna do it. They all go down
Yeah.
together.
I know, and to think they all first came together over smutty books. I love
Yes,
it.
I love that. All right. Chapter 39. Nesta has officially made it down 6,000 steps. We were almost at the bottom with just 4,000 steps to go, which is still so insane. We see
Yeah.
more and more priestesses showing up to training now that Cassian had to call in Azrael to help him with the whole group. Gwen keeps sneaking glances at Az, but he is the one that found her at the temple when the attack happened. We also see Gwen and Nesta practice the mind stilling, and Nesta struggles at first with keeping other thoughts out of her head, but she eventually finds a flow and finds that she enjoys it. She felt settled in her own skin for the first time ever.
Yeah, first it was the swords, now it's this mind stilling technique that she's learning.
Yeah.
She's got these friends now. She's doing so
And
good.
can we believe she's finally made it to 6,000 steps?
That's gotta be at least 3 miles if a 10,000 is 5 miles,
I
right?
just can't
3
imagine
miles?
going back up.
I
Once I
know.
got to that spot, I'm like, "Can someone winnow me back up, please?"
Yeah.
Climbing back up 6,000 steps? That's insane.
I know, and she doesn't stop when she's half through her energy. She literally stops when she's gassed
Done.
out, and then she has to go back up, gassed out.
Yeah. She's making
So
herself
she
strong.
yeah, she technically did do 12,000 steps at this point because she's gotta go back up.
I know. I know. I
Wild.
know. When she finally makes it down to 10,000, she's gonna do 20,000 at the end of it. That's insane.
And she hasn't puked. I know them as children didn't have a choice to go little by little, and Nessa's kinda training to do it, but
Yeah.
she's holding her own, you know? She's going and not even being led to do this extra training.
No.
She's probably exhausted even by the time she starts this, but she's like hungry for this power now and this knowledge and this strength, and she's gonna get it
Yeah.
either way, whether somebody's instructing her or if she's reading about it in a book or she's training herself on the
Yeah,
stairs.
like we said earlier, all these different tips and tricks she's learning and teaching herself is all for her benefit, and she's becoming a better female.
Yeah. Overall,
Yes.
for sure.
Then obviously we start the mind stilling, which I don't know about you,
Yes.
I am not very good at meditation.
No.
I am so bad at quieting my own mind, and
Yeah, same.
if I even try, my mind goes extra wild, thinking of
I was
things I
thinking
never thought of before.
yeah, while I'm reading this, I'm like, I need to take notes. I need to try the way Nesta did because she was having difficulty too. And then eventually it just happens. And I'm sure everyone that starts off meditating that happens to, it's not going to come right away. It really is something you have to practice and learn
Yeah.
and get better at. But
Yeah, and then
after reading that section, I'm like, I need to do this.
for sure, and just, like, acknowledging the thoughts that pop into your head when you're trying to meditate or mind still, and
Yeah.
acknowledge it and then let it go. I have that
Yeah.
problem. I have a hard time letting
Me
go.
too. Me too. We have one and the same when it comes to
We
that.
literally are.
Yes, and my notable line for the chapter 39 has to do with the mind stilling. On page 411, Nesta is thinking strange, so strange to find her body suddenly calmed, distant, like she'd somehow indeed been able to step back, let it rest. And her mind, open your eyes, Gwen said. Nesta did, and for the first time in her life, she felt utterly settled in her own skin. So after
Yay.
just one session of this mind stilling, she's seeing a benefit, which is again another motivational aspect to her learning and her training where she it just plummets her into indulging in anything she can learn at this point.
Yeah. We need to do some mind stilling for sure.
Yeah, we should just mark this chapter and read it once a month
Yeah.
and try it ourselves.
Yes. Moving on to chapter 40, Cassian takes Nesta on a field trip after training to see the blacksmith. He invited the others to come too, but they didn't feel comfortable leaving the mountain, and Emery had to get back to her shop. Cassian wanted Nesta to see how swords are made. Nesta then gets to hammer a blade and a sword as well. At another day of training, Nesta asks to use the punching bag, and she goes ham punching this tree trunk that is wrapped in whatever to keep her hands safe. And
Yeah.
she is releasing all of her tension onto this. Lucian shows up again in the story. He came to see how Nesta is progressing. Feyre wanted eyes on Nesta with someone who hadn't seen her in a while, which does kind of rub Cassian the wrong way. And it does rub me
Yeah.
the wrong way as well. Nesta walks
Yeah.
away, and when Cassian looks at the tree trunk, she had burned the tree from inside out, and when Cassian touched it, it turned into a pile of cinders. But the tree wasn't hot to the touch, it was ice cold. Lucian says, "Mother, spare them all."
First of all, we know Cassian goes into detail teaching her about a punch, and she's finally putting it to good use, which is good.
Yes,
She's retaining the knowledge.
yes, she is. She properly is punching the punching bag.
Yeah, exactly. She knows how to throw a fucking mean punch
Yeah,
now.
the only thing she's breaking is the tree, not her hand.
Literally, how crazy that she set it on fire, but the fire is not hot, it's cold.
Yeah, her silver flames are cold, not hot.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Interessante.
Very interesante because when she's scrying, she's feeling this coldness too.
Mhm.
So you can tell, I wouldn't say gaining control of them because I feel like they're still very uncontrollable to her, but I think we're seeing more glimpses and she's eventually gonna be in control
Ye
and do some crazy shit
yeah.
once she finally gets that
Yeah, for
control.
sure. And I think this is just such a random spot to bring Lucian back into this story and
Yeah.
to check in as a third party observer how Nesta is doing in her training. I just really didn't like that. I felt like we were finally getting to a good place where we're accepting that Nesta's doing what she needs to be doing and is excelling
Yeah.
at it. And now Feyre wants eyes on her from someone who hasn't seen her. Like, fuck off. You haven't seen her, Feyre.
I
I don't
know.
like
I
that.
was thinking the same thing. If you wanted someone that hasn't seen her, you could have came yourself. But also, I feel like as we read this in Nessa's point of view, we already know she knows Feyre could die. So I feel like her POV, Nessa's POV, is kind of softened a little to Feyre, but Feyre is still not softened again to Nesta.
Right.
So I can see and understand why she sends somebody, but sending Lucian was still a little
But
weird.
she doesn't trust like Cassian and Azriel wouldn't say like
That's what I mean.
something. I don't know.
I get obviously why she didn't ask Cassian because he sees her every day. Now Azriel's there training every day, but I figured maybe Reese would go, and I don't know, they're a little weird. Maybe even more would have been less weird, or Amryn. But Lucian of all people,
Yeah.
what?
Even Cassian was
That's
like, "What the
random.
fuck are you doing here?"
Yeah.
My thoughts exactly, Cassian.
My notable line for chapter 40 is on page 417, where Lucian sees Nesta training and says, "By the cauldron." He's so taken aback. Feyre said she was training, but I didn't know she was, well, training. And Cassian says, "Did you think she was filing her nails?" And Lucian says, "I wonder if there are some things that should not be awoken." And Cassian says, "Mind your own business, fireling."
But Cassian
I wonder where he learned that line from.
yeah, but also Lucian has always been wary of Nesta from even Akawar when he's like, we are
Yeah.
not the same when it comes to the power and the firepower that we have. And I think, yeah, I think it is kind of nerve wracking to kind of train your weapon. She's very
Yeah.
scary, and now they're just making her even more deadlier.
Yeah. But also, I feel like for Lucian to come in and say this as an outsider, and I know he's always been very wary of her, but to see her actually in motion now and see him kind of scared and taken aback, I'm like, is this almost foreshadowing that she's going to lose control of this power and this power is going to overcome her in a bad way?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I hope not. but
It's definitely
that's where
interesting.
my brain went for sure. I was like, "Oh god.
Oh,
Is it
no.
gonna be too much power for her? I don't know."
Yeah, we'll have to see, I guess. Which brings us to our last chapter, chapter 41. The High Lord of the Decor, our man Helion, has made his first appearance in Silver Flames, and I have missed him. He shows
Me
up with
too.
his favorite Pegasus. He loves to make an entrance. Reese and Feyre disclose the pregnancy to him, and they catch him up on the Trove and Brialin. They had to tell him because after inspecting the Autumn Court soldiers, he couldn't see a spell on them. And they realize then that Brialin has the crown, and now only the harp is missing and needs to be found by them before Brialin finds it. Helion teaches
Mhm.
Nesta how to ward the mask, and it's key to her blood, but she didn't want the knowledge on how to undo the spell, so Helion shows Reese instead. Nesta is reading more strategy books after Cassian gave her a copy of one of his favorites, but she is still reading romance novels at night. Cassie brings her some more of his favorites, and they finally have a conversation about their night together and why he hasn't sought her out again. Well, this makes Cassie need to show Nesta just how much he's still been thinking about what happened between them and gives her another round of glorious fun. Woo! I am
Mhm.
dreaming for this encounter to happen to me.
Yeah, I think the last line of this chapter is him telling her to put her hands
On the
on the
headboard.
headboard, and I'm like, "Oh my god."
I know. But yeah, obviously, so much happened in this. It was cool to see Helion show back up in the story again, and we got to see his Pegasus and learn about them. I think that's so cool. He just reminds me of a Greek god, like of Zeus. That is who I just
Yeah.
picture Helion to
Yeah,
be.
like glowing and perfect, and
Yeah.
of course he has to make an entrance. He wanted to come on a chariot with multiple Pegasuses, and Reese is like,
No,
"No."
this is not an official visit. This is us needing your help. You don't need a fucking parade to show up here.
Yeah, and he brings one of his flying horses just because he's like, "Oh, it's a compromise," but Reese is like, "Oh, "What the fuck, this guy?"
Always drawing attention to yourself.
Literally.
So crazy. And then obviously he does go and inspect the Autumn Court soldiers, and they are in fact not under a spell, but they are, I guess they are under a spell, but from the crown and not anything that Helion can get past. So
Yeah, like, he says something about it's like a fog or a mist that they're caught in, like, he can't see or break whatever it is. It leads them to believe she has the crown and is using it to influence them.
yeah, yeah. And then obviously we get Cassian and Nesta interacting and talking about books, which turns into a dot dot dot.
Yes, but before they have steamy, spicy, amazing, rough, crazy sex, I'm gonna share my notable line for this chapter 41, page 431. Cassian catches Nestor reading a brief history of the great sieges, since she still has a great deal to learn, and he asks her why the fuck she's reading this.
Yeah.
And she says, "What's the point in learning fighting techniques if I don't know their true purpose and uses? You'd train me into a weapon, and I'd be just that, someone else's weapon. I want to know how to wield it myself, I mean, and others." Cassian says, "You plan on leading an army, Ness?" And she says, "Not an army, but perhaps a small unit of females." Okay, Valkyrie energy.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing at its finest. I think it was beautiful. And Cassian was kind of taken aback by this. He was like, wow,
Yeah.
like what a
Yeah,
change.
she's becoming a completely different Nesta Archeron.
Yeah, almost like the girl version of Cassian, if you think about
Well,
it.
that's why they're, probably mates.
Yes, I'm
Though,
just waiting for them to tell me that the bond has clicked
yeah.
in the next section,
Well, I
maybe.
think it did already, and I marked it and I forgot to write it down. But there was one
No.
section of this book that I tabbed where it says something to the fact of she stills, like in shock.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what part it was at, but I'll try to find it and I'll update you guys obviously next week. I'll look for it. But basically, she is interacting with Cassian and she almost like stills. and she seems
Yeah.
shocked. And was wondering if the mating bond had clicked for her then, because that's kind of what happened to Reese when the mating bond clicked with Pharaoh, was he,
True.
like, stalled and was like, "Oh my god," and then disappeared.
And then gotta run get out of
But
there.
that yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely, like, marked it, and I'm so sorry, guys, I apologize that I did not write it in one of my summaries.
Well, Megan, you
Foggy
have
brain.
1 week to find it.
Yeah.
It was so interesting that she was the one that brought up sex
Mhm.
first. It wasn't even Cassie, and then he just brought her these books and he was gonna dip. But she's like, didn't you have fun? Don't you wanna fuck me?" And he's like, "What? Of course I did. I've been thinking about it nonstop." And
Yeah.
he's just like, "Get over here and put your hands on the
Yeah.
headboard."
Let's go.
No, but he literally at first, does he tell her or does she tell him? I can't remember who tells who what. But she is touching herself and she's like, "Not
Yeah,
yet." And
that's
he's
her
like,
to him. She's, like, shaking.
yeah. And she's just having so much fun. And he's like ready to explode again
Yeah.
without her even touching him.
Yeah. He cannot handle the heat.
Yeah. And then she even said something kinky as hell too. What was it? It was like, do you want to see or taste it or
Yeah,
something?
and she's like,
See
"Get
her
over
come
here,"
or
or
taste
whatever,
it.
yeah.
He's like, "Taste it." Like a little hungry fucking puppy.
Yeah, he's like, "I need that right now, right now."
Well, he gets it. He gets it.
Yeah, so we definitely ended this section on a spicy one.
Yes. So not only one, but two crazy sex scenes in this
I
section,
love to see it.
which was beautiful. Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before we end this episode, I do have one prediction that I'm going to mention here.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a scary one, which I'm sad. It's not fun, like wishing for sex.
Yeah.
But I think that the inner circle and Braylon will come across the harp
Mhm.
at the same time because both of them have one of the artifacts now. So it's just a race to get to the harp first, which I feel like is their number one priority at this point, not stealing the crown.
Mhm.
Or it should be, in my opinion, because if she gets two over you, then you're done
For
for.
sure.
At least it's still kind of even right now. They have one, she has one. Now they got to find this harp. But I just imagine that they're going to come across this at the same time and something is going down. Some kind of battle between them is going to go down.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
So that's my prediction for this section.
Yes.
And that's all we have for you today. I can't fucking wait to see what's gonna happen. I know we're gonna get some more steamy, spicy scenes, and some shit is gonna definitely go down. Hopefully, we get to this harp first, but we'll fucking
Mhm.
see. Please let us know what you think by leaving us a review and comments on any of the platforms that you're listening/watching on or on our social media pages. This helps tremendously to get the word out and lead more listeners to find our show and tune in.
Yes, don't forget to email, follow, subscribe, and rate us 5 stars and tell all your friends about us. And we hope the rest of your day is blissful. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Join us next week where we start part 5 of A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, covering chapters 42 through 54. Happy reading!